All right, welcome to Hero Thoughts, where we pull out life-changing lessons and self-coaching principles from your favorite shows and movies. My name's Joey, and this is Ben, and we are both certified life coaches for teens. Are you excited, Ben?
I'm super excited.
Yeah, this is our first episode here, and we are starting right off the bat with Hawkeye episodes 1 and 2, which just dropped last week. And I fully enjoyed it. Ben, did you enjoy the ride?
I did. I was pleasantly surprised. Like my favorite Hawkeye thing was the Saturday Night Live when they just made fun of him for only having
the
arrows.
Song about not having any superpowers.
And he's like, "I'm out." How can you be out of it? Like that was fun. But I was pleasantly surprised during this episode and a half that I watched. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool.
Yeah, I like the way that Marvel's going with this. It's very much a mystery type of in the city whodunit kind of thing is what it seems like it's setting up. There's a big crime boss. We don't know who they are yet, but I'm super excited. I think it's very smart for them to go this way because Hawkeye doesn't have any superpowers, and this fight scenes are going to be more down to earth.
And I think it's kind of cool how they've incorporated Christmas. I always love like the Christmas episode in a series, and I always thought it's kind of funny when they like randomly throw in the Christmas episode and like people are in there that died, or like you can tell they were just like, oh yeah, it's Christmas time, let's throw this in there. But this one, I'm like, awesome. Like the end of the first credits, they're playing Christmas music, and I'm like, okay. I always love the Christmas scene, and this is like a series set at Christmas time. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, I know. He says it's 6 days till Christmas and there's 6 episodes.
Yeah.
So maybe each day is going to be an episode. Who knows, right? And my prediction is episode 6 will be Christmas Eve / Christmas Day. That's my prediction. So let's get right into it. What we want to do is we want to go through and do a quick scene by scene recap and point out any like self-coaching principles that they're using. Screenwriters totally are life coaches in their head. You have to understand how behavior works and how what you think affects how you act in order to create believable characters. And so as they do this, we get to see how they reveal things. So let's start right with the first episode, 2012, right before the Battle of New York in the original Avengers movie. We see Kate Bishop and her family. Her parents are arguing, right? Mom and dad going at it. She's listening in. They catch her. Dad goes up and talks with her. And right off the bat, I think it's like 2.5 minutes in, we get a major like life coaching principle that the dad drops on Kate. And I wrote it down. He said, there is always going to be weather. People forget the one thing you can control, the choices you make in the face of it. Ben, did your mind just blow when he said that?
Yeah, I loved it. And I'm always like, that's what I teach. Like when I watch certain things and there's like the wise person, I'm like, hey, that's one of the number one things I teach people. Anytime you feel like the victim, anytime you feel like you're out of control, it's because you're actually focused on things that are not within your control. And I believe like the little girl is like, what would you do in a hurricane? Same thing I always do. I'd protect you. Like in a hurricane, like there's so many things outside of your control, so chaotic, which like within seconds, like that was the world that they lived in, like all these explosions and the power of realizing, oh, I can't control any of this, but I can do this one thing. I can control this. So powerful. That is one of the things, like as you work with Joey and I, you'll probably hear me talk about, well, are you trying to control something within or outside of your control?
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because then a hurricane did happen with all these explosions or whatnot, and dad was nowhere to be seen. Dad dies. Now, you know the rule. If somebody dies off screen, they probably ain't really dead. Yeah, exactly. So who knows with dad? By the way, if you haven't caught on yet, there's going to be spoilers if you haven't seen episodes 1 and 2. We don't know what happens in the future. We will be making predictions, but my guess is dad ain't really dead.
He's going to come back. He's in the shadows protecting his daughter somehow.
Yeah, something. But like in that moment, he couldn't protect his daughter. Now, the screenwriters did this to set up Kate's main drive for the series, right? Like you can't control the weather. You can only control the choices you make in the face of it. Now, what's going to happen throughout this series is that she's going to be trying to control the weather. That's just what she's going to try to do, even though her dad has said that. That's the lesson she needs to learn throughout this arc.
Well, and they hinted that at the funeral when I can't remember how this worked, but Kate's like, I need to protect us. And her mom's like, no, that's my job. I'll protect us. What else do you want? A bow and arrow.
A bow and arrow. So I can protect you, right? Yeah.
You know, she's still fixated on that.
Yeah, desperately trying to control her circumstances, which is good to be prepared for circumstances. I love she goes through that training through the opening credits. You see her train and her mom's kind of overseeing her and whatnot. And then we get to her at college where she destroys that bell tower, who, if you didn't catch it, was the bell tower. Oh, a clock tower. Well, I didn't even see the clock, right? A line that she said. But if you caught it, it was the Stane bell tower. And maybe that's a reference to Obadiah Stane, the villain in the first Iron Man movie.
Jeff Bridges' character.
Jeff Bridges, he becomes Ironmonger, right? In his own Iron Man suit. Just a play to that. Maybe he donated money to that college or something like that. But she ruins that. And then from there, we cut over to Clint Barton, right? Hawkeye. And he's watching Rogers the Musical. Now,
the worst I'm a musical fan. I love The Music Man, Les Miserables. That one was bad.
I can do this all day. It was just so cheesy, so campy. They actually got real Broadway stars to do that, by the way. That was real Broadway stars doing that. And it's crazy. And Clint is not enjoying it. There's a lot of thoughts going on in his head, primarily about Natasha. Remember, Natasha at this point, she died to get one of the stones. And she's gone, and it was supposed to be him. So he's missing her. And now she's like, all this is being weirdly glorified and all that. Something's going on in his head. He doesn't like what's going on.
And there's some anger. Like Ant-Man comes in and he's like, he wasn't even there.
He wasn't even there. Right? It was like the injustice of it all. Even I, as a viewer, got like, oh man, like why is Ant-Man? And later on, when you see in New York, there's like people dressed up as costumes. Ant-Man, like somebody's Ant-Man and nobody's him. And she points out, she goes, well, there you are. And he's like, no, that's Katniss Everdeen. It's hilarious. And so they're really playing up to the whole fact that he's got to feel like a lesser Avenger. Plus, if you notice, he's deaf in one ear.
Yep.
And which is, I think, brilliant, showing that as a non-super powered hero, all the saving has taken a toll on him. Right. And so that is kind of going to play into whatever his thought is. Now, remember, our main characters are not going to just say their thoughts of what's causing them to feel this way. We can assume it's something he's feeling about Natasha. And then later he gets his meal for free when he's eating out with his family. And he doesn't like it. He has this look like he's like, oh my goodness, like, why are they? And later we find out that it's possibly because of how he feels about his history as being the Ronin. You know, during the blip, those 5 years, he remained and he went on a killing spree, trying to cleanse the world of any bad guy that was left. And he murdered a lot of people. And that's kind of, there's got to be a thought like that hanging around in his head. Wouldn't you think so, Ben?
Yeah, I kind of see as this progresses, like Clint Barton is kind of going to be the guide who's nurturing the sidekick. And as they develop, there's going to be this obstacle where he doesn't feel like he's worthy or good enough. And I think it's going to tie back to the atrocities that he committed as the Ronin. The Ronin. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, which is, it's an interesting dynamic. Usually you have one main character and the mentor, right? And so in this one, you have Kate, who's like the main character, even though it's called Hawkeye. I know she becomes Hawkeye or whatever. And her mentor is going to be Clint, but then Clint also is going to have an arc. I wonder who's going to be his mentor. He's going to have to talk to somebody who's going to kind of set him straight a little bit.
I think it'll probably be Kate that
It could
helps
be.
jog him and be like, no, you are still good.
I
One
think
side
it's going to be somebody else. I think they're going to pull in a fun character. There's lots of characters they can pull in. That
could
are
be
in this story.
Natasha's memory. Like it
Yeah.
could be
Yeah.
so many things. One side note, one thing I've really enjoyed about these kind of spin-offs is they're paying tribute to the old campy, awful costumes. And they haven't done it yet, but in the what's the main picture? Like they're in the purple.
They're in that bright purple. Yeah.
And I think it's kind of cool to like have that little callback to the comics that were so popular. So
yeah, it's crazy. So it goes on. We meet Kate's mom in the present time, and she's got Jack, her boyfriend slash fiance. We find out now the actor who plays Jack, I forget his name, but he plays a villain in the Breaking Bad spinoff Better Call Saul. The instant I saw him, I'm like, oh, he's a bad guy. He's just got one of those faces that is like, he's a bad guy, and he's got this smile. It's just so creepy, right?
Yeah, they like picked him specifically because you're not gonna like him that much. Like they want you to, yeah.
Yep. And then apparently he, like his character is also from the comics as like the Crimson, I forgot his name, but he's a sword fighter, right? So which is why he's all about the swords. And his uncle is Armand, another guy you're instantly like, he's
Armand
a bad guy.
the Third.
Armand the Third.
Out of 7.
Out of 7, right? You know he's a bad guy, and he ends up dying by the end of that episode. Who did it? That's going to be the main kind of driver for, if not the whole series, at least the next couple episodes. Who killed Armand and why, or who did it, and if they did it, who ordered them to do it. But you got this auction, this evil layer auction in the wine cellar, auctioning off stuff, and that's where the Ronin sword comes up, and the Ronin's costume comes up. Then we get introduced to the tracksuit mafia, which is, I couldn't believe that was actually what they're called in the comics.
Super intimidating name, right?
Yeah, tracksuit mafia. But man, these guys are like Russian dudes. They're kind of like a comic relief. So you know they're not the ultimate big bad. There's somebody else pushing them. But they come in, and then Jack walks off with the Ronin sword. Kate gets Ronin's costume, puts it on, creates all kind of havoc, because the tracksuit mafia do not like the Ronin, because most organized crime didn't like him. So
unfortunately, she's like a black belt or something. So
yes, yeah,
she can like kick butt.
Yeah, she kicks butt. And then at the end of the episode number 1, she gets surrounded. She's doing pretty good for herself, and then Hawkeye has to come save her. And then that moves us into episode 2, where the tracksuit mafia is on Kate's tail. They are throwing what is it called, Molotov cocktails into her apartment. They have to get out. It catches fire. She leaves the suit behind.
Coolest scene though, when they're throwing these in and Clint breaks the window so he can catch the one and throw it back. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was super cool. Super cool. Like, boom, catch it, throw it back, establishing that he is very much the hero in this story, because he's got cool things like that, cool moves like that. He has to go back to get the suit, but we find out that a firefighter took it. And I love the sticker they put on the fire truck, the NYC LARPers. And that's, if you don't know what a LARPer is, live action role play. Ben, did you know what LARPers were?
I did not know that, but that makes sense that you would love that.
Yeah, well, that's not the reason why I love live action role play. I've never LARPed before, but I just found it was funny that the guy loves LARPing so much, he puts it on his fire truck, right? I've never seen any stickers on fire trucks, but the writer's like, we got to leave a clue somewhere. Let's just put it on the sticker on the window of the fire truck, which is crazy. And then in episode 2, they're really playing up this other kind of plot line where Clint needs to be home by Christmas, you know, and there's so much drama going on in his daughter's mind and his mind, and mom seems to be chill with it. Mom's like, hey, it's okay. There's so many thoughts there. And in a TV show like this, the writer's got to drum up that drama. Oh, he's got to be home by Christmas. It's going to be such a thing. And me, as not only a life coach, but a screenwriter who has got training in screenwriting, I'm like, what it's such like fake conflict that it's just the daughter is just not cool with, like, he literally has to save people's lives and daughter's like, well, I want dad to be home by Christmas, where all she got to do is just get coached on that. And then all of a sudden that pressure of dad needing to get home by a certain date would go away. Like, celebrate Christmas on the 26th as he saves lives, right? Like, what would be the thought, Ben, that she would have?
Well, first of all, I want to be like, that's a legitimate thing. Like, I remember as a kid, my mom having to miss a Christmas. She was a midwife and would help people give birth. And I'm like, I can't believe people would dare have children on Christmas. Like, it just messes up everything. Like, it's a legitimate thought, but
true, it's very legitimate. Yeah.
As you're saying, like, having these life coaching skills and realizing, oh, this is what I'm thinking. This is the emotion it's creating. So I like that you pointed that out. And I think, like you said, it's just like an easy way to create tension and drama. And I think we're going to see it shift to more pressing matters soon enough. But
yeah, the initial Clint being upset about maybe his past with the Ronin or being the Ronin and all that is kind of going to take a back seat for episode 2 and possibly episode 3 as he deals with some other pressing issues. I love the next scene where him and Kate are talking and she says, you have a branding issue, right? Like, and you have an issue with branding, like being like the cool, the understated guy. No, like, you got to be out there. You got to like brand yourself better. But we know like that's not his issue. His issue, again, is something with his thoughts about what his past is doing to him in the present. Again, we still don't know what his actual problem is, but that is kind of our guess. Then there's that whole scene that I know a lot of teens could probably relate to. Talking with mom and soon to be stepdad, Jack, in mom's office. And Jack is just being annoying. He's saying these things. He's literally just calling out everything. And I was like, did he read like a life coaching book? And then he said, I actually read a book about, being a stepfather, and really just straight up causes annoyance in Kate. Ben, did you get that far?
I didn't get that far, but what I just envisioned is like the parents that we work with that have gotten into these life coaching tools and love it. And they're like, I'm going to change my team and I'm going to, so now I have to go watch it and see if. Yeah,
definitely going to watch that part. Cause he just like calls out, oh, she's struggling for power. And she's all like, obviously afraid of me and I'm a threat. And I can see that I'm I can see me being portrayed as a threat, almost like I'm a pretty threatening guy, which he really is. Like, that guy just straight up creepy. Yeah. And then we have the LARPing scene. Oh my goodness. Clint Barton has to go to Central Park and battle a LARPer for his own suit. And this guy's like, dude, just let me win. And they organize this whole like battle. And Clint really had to check his thoughts because he said, I could just punch you and take it. Or we can just do this, like, I can just tap you with a sword and I can take it. And then the guy's like, dude, like, just let me win in a battle. So Clint does. He has to like swallow his pride. Yeah. And he totally had to think a thought about him, about the other guy, and about himself to allow him to peacefully take that. And it ended up being a pretty nice exchange between him and that firefighter dude. And then he gets the suit. But now he has to put in force his plan to get captured by the tracksuit mafia so he can make sure that they're not going to go after Kate and do any harm to her. Meanwhile, we know Kate is off getting more clues, having dinner with Jack and her mom, and he's super like on the nose bad guy. Yes, the secret to risotto is agitating it just right to the point where it's doing what you want it to do, and he's agitating Kate as he says that. And then she challenges him to a fencing duel and he accepts, and mom lets this happen. And then they fence and he just lets her win. And she knows he is, and he continues to get under her skin. And then at the very end of that scene where she proves that he's a better fencer and he's lying about it and he's got some background that he's not sharing, he offers her a butterscotch from his uncle's house that is the smoking gun that he was there the night that his uncle died, that last night, because she saw those and then saw the body, and oh my goodness, right? So then Clint gets captured by the tracksuit mafia, and he's totally keeping his whole like his like he's staying chill throughout that. Very reminiscent of Natasha, Black Widow, when she was being interrogated, that she can get out. She was fully in control. I love that thought. When you are captured by a bunch of Russian thugs in tracksuits, can you continue to channel the thought, I'm still in control of this situation?
It's easier when they're wearing tracksuits rather than.
Yeah, totally. And then like he's stuck and Kate finds him and falls through the thing. Now they're both stuck there. And then we meet not the big bad, but the medium bad, who's on site there in that whatever warehouse they're in, and it's revealed to be Echo, who is a character from the comics. She's actually going to get her own spin-off TV show. It's already been confirmed, but she's a deaf character who is apparently a bad guy. Right? I don't know much about Echo, but apparently she's a bad guy. She's going to get her own spinoff, and that's when episode 2 ends. Now,
was there a scene after?
No, there was no post scene. It was just that she like looks at the camera all like intense, like, and is, oh no. And people were like, who was that? I don't know. I have to go to YouTube to find out. And so that was Echo. So we are predicting that Clint's main thought holding him back is something about him being the Ronin, also something mixed with Natasha, maybe what being a superhero means in general. He's got to fix that in order to become who he's going to become by the end of this series. Kate's main thought holding her back, something along the lines that everything is out of my control, or I can't protect the people that I care about. She's really fighting for control. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, and I would say, like, even deeper than the main thought, like we could probably pinpoint the main feeling that's driving Clint, which is probably like shame, guilt, somewhere in there. And then for Kate, it's probably fear and the sorrow of losing her dad, something in there.
I love
and
that. She has so much fear.
Yeah. And as we like, there's probably hundreds of thoughts that kind of boil down to these same handful of emotions. And I think those are the ones that are driving a lot of these themes. And I think protecting people is going to be a big theme. Like it was in the first episode, you have Clint who's protecting this girl he doesn't even know. Like he saved her because she's wearing the suit, but yet he feels obligated to protect her. I just really like it. I am more excited to watch this series than I thought I would be. So.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. We're going to be here doing these post episode shows. We're going to figure out who's the big bad, even behind Echo. I'm hoping it's Kingpin, and they do the Daredevil crossover, which will be awesome. Bring them into this universe. We're going to find out what happened to Dad, how evil is Jack, how much does Mom know. We're going to find out all that, and we're going to identify the main thoughts driving these characters. So we will see you guys after episode 3.
See you guys soon.